Welcome to episode 9 of the Growthinity Exchange live stream interview series, where purpose meets perspective and where we empower purpose driven leaders to rise, lead, and transform. I'm Vanessa Arbas, and I'm thrilled to welcome our global community watching from the Philippines, Dubai, the UK, South Africa, India, the US, and beyond. Wherever you're joining from, drop your location in the comments. We'd love to know where you're tuning in from. And as always, feel free to ask questions throughout the session because your voice matters here. Today's topic is one that every organization, team, and leader will inevitably face: leading through change, building adaptive cultures in times of transition. Change is no longer a disruption, it's a constant. And in times of uncertainty, it's not just strategies that need to shift, but mindsets and cultures too. In this episode, we'll explore how leaders can create environments that don't just survive transitions, but thrive through them. We'll dive into change management, the psychology of resistance, and what it takes to build an adaptive, resilient, and people centered culture that can weather any storm. This afternoon, we are honored to have with us Professor Dr. Chaitanya Nipadkar, who is a distinguished academic, author, and leadership expert with extensive experience in change management, leadership, human resources, organizational development, and learning and development. He currently serves as an adjunct faculty at the Swiss School of Business and Management, or SSBM, in Geneva, Switzerland, and is the academic programs head for a reputed Canadian public university in the United Arab of the Emirates. An alumnus of Harvard Business School, USA, and Lancaster University, UK, he is a verified educator with Harvard Business Publishing education. He holds not just one, but two doctoral degrees, two master's degrees, and multiple certifications in education and technology. Professor Nipadkar is the president of the Institute for Education, Research and Scholarships India and director of fundraising for the Institute for Education, Research and Scholarships in the USA. He also holds a UK patent for a research design tool he developed called CHAMP Performer, a performance framework for driving organizational change. As an accomplished author, his works include building organizational leadership, along with several publications in international journals, magazines, and online platforms. His research and writing continue to shape thinking in leadership and organizational effectiveness globally. With a career spanning academia, consulting, and institutional leadership, Professor Chaitanya has mentored doctoral learners, founded institutes, and served as an academic partner to renowned organizations. He brings a global perspective to sustainability, education, and strategic development. Truly, he is an entrepreneur, academician, and leadership innovator. Good afternoon, Professor Chaitanya. How are you feeling today?
Good afternoon. Feeling excellent and quite happy to be the part of this podcast. Thank you, Donessa.
Indeed. So we are very excited to learn from you this afternoon. So please help us understand, what does leading through change mean in today's rapidly evolving workplace?
Leading through change in today's rapidly evolving workplace, in my view, means guiding individuals, teams, and organizations through period of transformation with clarity, empathy, and resilience. As technology market today demands the workforce expectations and shifting that gradually, so leaders must help their teams to adapt while maintaining the productivity, engagement, and morale. So in today's workplace, basically the focus is not just on the technological advancement, but shifting the employee expectations and global uncertainties, which we can refer to leading that change towards teams in terms of communicating a clear vision, empowering teams, modeling resilience, and adapting quickly. In this sense, I would say that it is more of a psychological shift than just being onto the practical side. And it is something that managers and employers should focus more upon empathy, which is a part of a human habit now, which would empower performance in that sense. So that makes the way. Beyond technological advancement, it is the human sense of management, I would say, that's leading through change in today's world for teamworks at the workplace.
That's wonderful. Now, from your experience, Professor, because it's not just on the technological aspect, but more on psychological shift, what are the common mistakes organizations make when they go through major transitions? Please share some of your
I would say,
insights based on
over
experience.
my career that I have seen, if I put it down, first and foremost, it is a misconception, or I'll say it's a myth that the money could make man happy. So most of the employers, they think that a pay rise or a paycheck would give success and appreciation to the employee. 50% of that could be true, but remaining 50% that they need to understand that they have employed humans. So that human sense uh, is a very important aspect of today's living, because what is more important at the workplace is your performance and productivity. And how that come? That would only come when you are having job satisfaction. How does job satisfaction comes in place? Is when you love your workplace and you be a part of an extended family to the organization. We have something called as OCB, organizational citizenship behavior, which means like you are a citizen to your country, you are a citizen to that organization. A person working with an X brand, say BMW or Amazon or Google, they feel and they are made to operate in that organizational culture, that they are a part of Google, they are a part of NASA, they are a part of BMW, they are a part of Apple. So that's the OCB, organizational citizenship behavior. They are loyal to their organizations. They inject all those skills and impart all those talents that they have towards serving the organization and serving people at large. So this is more important for organizations and employers to understand, that it is not just a human sense that you have acquired or you have employed, but it's more of that person is a living entity, and you have to make him or her happy through various other facets, not just money. So that comes from my experience, that it's a job satisfaction. A normal rewards and recognition program could do the change, for example.
That's wonderful. I've learned something today, just within the first 5 minutes of our live stream. You said OCB, organizational citizen behavior.
Shift
It's my
behavior,
first
yes.
that sorry, yeah, it's my first time to hear that. And I believe if there are, for those who will hear this recording or watch this recording in the future, this is something that we can learn from and really put in our practice in organization, because more often we think it's the material compensation that makes our employee, how do you call that, I'm satisfied, but it's actually the holistic wellness of our people, and make them feel and believe and think and behave that they are citizens in that organization. That's powerful. That itself is a life changing, and AV, that also changes the behavior of the organization should they apply that. But based on your experience again, how can leaders recognize the early signs of resistance to change? Because it's especially when there's a change of management, like a change of CEO, a change of director, and more often than not, people have this tendency or natural inclination to resist to change because we enjoy being in our comfort zone. And what should they do? What should leaders do about it?
First and foremost, this is a very vital question of importance to the workplace, and this has been unfortunately overlooked. So, thank you for bringing it to discussion. This is very relevant to the topic. Uh, the key thing here is that new leaders or the new management should understand that the existing employees or the new employees or somebody else other than you cannot be like you. So basically, when the leader thinks that he is more task oriented or result oriented, he needs to understand that different people learn differently. So when there is a shift of management or there is a change in leadership, all the leaders, especially at the top, they need to understand that these are performers and they are good in a particular aspect. Somebody is good in marketing, the other is good in understanding human side, so they are into human resources. Someone else is more into strategy, someone else is more into execution. So you need to understand your team better and mix and match those personality traits that they carry apart from the skills that they have.
Mm,
Skills is one area, but I would put forward more onto the side of understanding the likings of an individual that he could have. For example, if somebody is in marketing and if he's not communicating good, the top management should identify that and utilize his potential through a sense of job rotation or through a sense of leadership mentoring. Number one. Number two, with the shift in management, uh, it shouldn't fear the employees that something is going to change. And that needs to be narrated properly or circulated properly, that information from top to bottom. The third thing is there should not be a hierarchical barrier. Like, for example, Steve Jobs says that a leader is the one who would talk to the janitor and to the MD in the same fashion, imparting his knowledge and exhibiting his skills. So there has to be a uniform thing while you talk to employees, you talk to the top management, and the key to that is to work together and to make them feel that yes, each and every employee is contributing to the success of the management, to the success of the organization. And when you make those employees feel that you are very important for us, you are the one who are creating history, you are the one who are the part of the team, and without you we cannot have that orchestra ready, we cannot have that harmony, because each one has to play his or her own contribution, which is what makes the whole. So in that sense, if they make that feel, there is no sense of fear on one side. That is the key to success in accepting the leadership change. The second thing is, in some areas like in Asia, particularly India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and so many others, including the US, there is a fear of losing the job. So if that threat, some leaders, not all, but if some companies they operate is like hire and fire policy, mainly that goes for marketing and sales and areas like that. So that uncertainty gap has to be streamlined. If employers do that, because people cannot perform in fear, that's a very good thing that they need to understand, and that's a very easy thing that they could implement. They need to understand that fear doesn't operate here. Everyone here is not just to earn money, but everyone here is to impart their skills, exhibit their knowledge, and be a part of their culture. It's like welcoming. For example, when we move, like visit Dubai, it's like the way they welcome to Dubai. I mean, it feels good that we are at a new place. We go there for shopping, we go there for sightseeing. So, something similar to that attitude we need to have at work, that we need to learn something new. We are here to give something through our knowledge, our talent, and our experiences. So, that kind of inquisitive behavior that employees should have. And it is the job of the management as well as HR to create that learning and development opportunities that would be leading through change in an optimistic way to make an organization more solid. And also, I would want to bring in here that no company is big or small. It is all the attitude that makes the difference, and it is the leader who has to lead with self example. 90% of people, I would say, on an average, would follow the leader, but then the leader to lead in that way should be an example. We have Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. These are all leaders. These are all examples. Elon Musk. So these are all examples, Sir Ratan Tata, who have led the way, they led the company, that they are an icon. When we think about the organization, when we think of Apple, we think of Steve Jobs. There are many others working in the company. It's not Steve Jobs being a part of that company anymore. But then his philosophy, his way of dealing with things, his way of leading life, his way of treating others is what matters today the most. So that's important.
I like what you said earlier, when you emphasize on empathy and how you make people feel, because more often than not, again, people can be, how do you call it? They bring their title, they put their title on their head. They are
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
CEO, they
Exactly.
are in the leadership, they are in the executive circle.
Exactly.
So the way they carry themselves, sometimes,
Exactly.
they emit that energy of arrogance and overconfidence.
Yes.
And the way they
Yes.
talk, the way they deal with people, it's as
Yes.
if they are on a pedestal. So this
True.
is, I would say, a simple, it may sound simple and already a cliche, but how we deal with each other regardless of our position and title does matter a lot, because that's
True.
the culture as a leader, we are establishing. And secondly, I like also what you said, when you cascade, when there is a shift of management or leadership, you don't make the people feel there is change, a change is happening, but you communicate it to them and you give them the assurance that everything is okay. Instead of entertaining or allowing fear to grow in that, in your community or in your organization, you actually prevent it, and so there is that welcoming attitude. I like that very practical inputs, Professor.
True.
These are little, it may sound little, but when you actually put that into action, it makes a lot of difference. So learning from you, I know you've been leading organizations, you've founded institutes, and even with your current job, current position as like you starting, being part of a huge Canadian university and in the UAE, that speaks volumes of your capacity to really not just start something but lead the entire organization into a new place. So I'm just curious, aside from psychology, and especially in a place such as, let's say, yeah, UAE, it's understood, there are a lot of expats there. But maybe in our city, if we put culture into context, we may come from different city, as the same cities, a city or a island, but then we have subcultures at home. So why is culture such a critical factor in whether change efforts succeed or fail? So it's not just about societal culture, but even subcultures at home that we bring to our office, to our company. Why is this very critical, and how do we navigate with that?
Basically, we need to understand here that it's like culture is built up based on our habits, and from childhood, the things that we are doing continuously, like celebrating a festival or doing a particular thing in a particular manner.
Yeah.
So it is culture. We will come to culture in the second part. The first part that I want to bring in here is every individual is a sum total of his experiences and observations. So, based on your experiences and observations, our mind develops tacitly the way that we feel, the way that we think, the way that we celebrate joy, sorrow, whatever, all the kind of emotions that we have. So that makes it that we call broadly as a culture. Take, for example, if you take India, um, it is like huge. So there are so many cultures. So it's not that one Indian culture that we can put it into inverted commas and say this is Indian. It could be Indian, but it could be a small pot in South India or North India or say East India. So, I mean, even Bombay, the city Mumbai that I come from, it's like a fusion of culture. It's like a melting pot. The same happens with some of the cities in New York. Say, some of the places in US. In New York is different. to Washington DC, and at the sense Los Angeles is quite different from Kentucky. So when we say that, we categorize that as an American culture or Asian culture or European culture. It's like we are generalizing that. So we need to understand that each and every individual is different. He or she is a sum total of his experiences, and it's like a fusion, which is actually causing the confusion. So that's the fusion of ideas which is causing that confusion. So we need not generalize that, number one. Number two, when we come to a place like Dubai, UAE in particular, it's like how we see that everybody is enjoy, everybody is celebrating, and it's like the new year, or it's like the shopping festival. There's a lot happening here in terms of the sports and the kind of events that the UAE government takes into place, and they operate that, and lot of events happening in Abu Dhabi as well. So these are all welcoming things. So culture is something that makes you smile. Culture is something as an opportunity I see, which allows you to celebrate and which allows you to grow in terms of your happiness, to spread that happiness and get out and get rid of the tensions that you carry, the pressures at the workplace and things like that. So it's like basically I would say that there's only one culture that I would want to follow, which is nothing but serving mankind. That's the primary culture that everybody should understand. Rest of that, I would say that we are citizens of some country, we hold some passports, but at the end of the day, we are all on a tourist visa, and we all have to depart from this mother earth.
Wow, that is a very touchy, and more of a spiritual. There's a spiritual touch there
I
that
feel that it's the reality. So
regardless of
no
where
matter
we're
whatever
from.
passport you carry, but you are not, your citizenship may be permanent, but you are not permanent on this earth.
Yeah, so I love that. It puts things on perspective because
Yes.
we
So,
talked about
I mean, what
culture
I've
and
been talking
citizenship,
about is
but
the
yes,
basics. Yes.
we are all
Yes.
tourists and pilgrims on this earth, and
Yes.
this is not a
Yes.
permanent home. Our citizenship is
Exactly.
really eternal.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I love that.
So
I really appreciate that
this will
from you,
bring me to sum
Professor.
up the question, to answer that question through of culture, is that I, me, and myself is too much. We need to look forward for we and building a better tomorrow for future generations. So when, and it is a basic thing that the way we give is the way we receive. The way you sow is the way you reap. So
Amen.
it's that philosophy which we need to follow. People say that, but once we do that for the leaders, for cultures, you see, for example, the Arabic culture, it's so welcoming. You see, for example, the culture in Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, it's all welcoming. That's all a part of Asia as well. You see the Indian culture, the Sri Lankan culture, it's all welcoming. So
Mm,
you need not believe in the culture, but you just join that. It's like joining the party and enjoying the gift called life. It's a gift of life that we need to enjoy and we need to cherish.
that's wonderful. Now, going back to organizations, how can they begin to build or reshape a culture that is adaptive rather than reactive to change?
Uh, Things keep on changing. Customer preferences keeps on changing. So there could not be a uniform culture that would operate. It would not be a kind of a rule book or a guideline that we need to have, but to stay ahead of time or to move around with time. Learning from, say, Google, or learning from, say, Apple. These are the examples I'm giving, which everyone could relate to. We need to understand that culture is built based on the preferences, based on the taste. So in that sense, we need to understand that first and foremost, any organization needs to be quite flexible, quite accommodative, and they need to move ahead with things that are happening around. For example, before Corona, there was no aspect of an online learning or an online workplace or meetings and all. Even for that matter, today we find that the interviews that happen for the recruitment, most of the companies prefer to have it online. for the first round and for the second round. The third round, they may have face to face. And in the companies like MNCs, who are in multiple nations and more than, say, 50 countries they are operating, they are operating based on the conference meeting that's happening online, virtual, which wasn't the case to this extent before Corona. Now, this is something that we are made to do. Most of the countries, they were like, for example, India was having a face-to-face meeting conversation, but now it has very nicely adapted to the online culture and the kind of setting. But I mean to say that instead of a calamity banging on you, you need to understand how things are moving. For example, our podcast, it's like many people are operating in different time zones and still they are watching it. At times, we could recollect after a few months, we could again get back to these things, the basic things that I'm putting it across. So,
Mm,
this is something has to be more adaptive, number one, which is flexible. Second, an important thing is the learning culture, the culture of learning, or as I could call it, as a continuous learning, that needs to happen. And in that sense, we need to learn from mistakes of other companies, our rivals, the players in the market, how they are operating. For example, if I put the case of airlines, we have the Emirates operating successfully, we have the American airlines operating successfully, but there are few who have been looked down, like the Malaysian Airlines or Air India these days. So these are all the things that, for example, if I take a case of an airline industry, they need to learn from each other what they are doing, which we aren't doing so good. Singapore Airlines stands on number one and in world class areas as far as Asia is concerned. So we need to learn from that. We need to learn from each other. And at the same time, the third thing that they need to do is they need to have something called as a mentorship.
mm,
One who is a champ or champion within that area needs to assist his
mm,
employees, and that's how we could build teams, because it is only polishing your skills and sharpening your saw. So in that sense, the leadership mentor could impart his mentoring to polish the skills of your employees and
mm.
make them from better to best.
Wonderful. Based on what you just said, it looks like HR and the learning and development professionals in the organization play a crucial role in
Indeed,
shaping,
indeed.
um, the culture in the organization to be more adaptive and reactive. So you mentioned about mentorship. Um,
Yes.
do you believe that the HR and the learning and development professionals should just focus on providing training, mentoring to their people, to their organizational citizens, as you say?
Yes,
Or
as
is
I
it
talked about the
also, it's
OCP.
also great to um, I would say invite other experts, other L&D professionals to help the HR and LD professionals in that organization in reshaping or, yes, the culture. What's your stand or take on that?
There's something called as communities of practice, or the COP theory, which is like laid down by Jean Lave and Etany Wenger. So I was referring to that, to the practical application of that COP theory, communities of practice. What I would suggest here is that yes, of course, HR should imbibe more onto the L&D culture and giving opportunities for continuous learning and development. I would put it as like 50% of your performance would depend on the work that you do, but that's just 50% in my view. The remaining 50% is something that you interact with people to outside your company. First
Mm,
and foremost, I would recommend all those executives who are not doing, to some of them, to get out of their cabin first, because
nice.
just being in a part of your cabin and just being a part of your world where you're talking about the global kind of things and global perspectives, it's an irony that most of them who keep busy and who are too tied up with back-to-back meetings. I mean, this is, I'm generalizing it. It's not for a specific individual or something, but then overall that I have observed, particularly in India, for that matter. So they are talking about the global perspective, but they hardly get out of their cabin, and they are back to back into meetings. So they actually are living in a small world. I would call such peoples as directors of a pond.
All right. So I like what being an expert in your field, expert in change management, HR learning and development. I really
The
appreciate,
rewards and recognition is
your
also
sense.
one aspect that HR should look upon, because other than money, it is something, a small piece of appreciation. Even if you like make something someone feel good, or like the way I learn something from this podcast, or I mean the people learn or you learn from something, that's what knowledge sharing is all about.
Mm. Yeah, so because sometimes, more often, we, especially the CEOs, the directors, are really caught in that cycle of
Exactly.
routine, like meetings,
Exactly.
maintenance of the company, and looking at the process for production or your people.
Exactly.
And then we
Exactly.
always talk about global perspective,
The
what is
deadlines,
that,
the
the
timelines.
deadlines, yes, and the deliverables, but then we
Yes.
we
Yes.
allocate very
Project
little time.
completion.
Yes, exactly, little time to learn from others. And it's true, like 50-50-50 from the people within, but it's a great strategy to actually invite or learn from other. I like what you said, community of experts who can also
Yes.
add value to our community and give us new, if not new, at least a different perspective on how to run things. So this is very
Yes.
powerful, even
And
in
all
leadership.
this, I
Yes.
would put the most focus on, you just imagine, each one of us could imagine like a boss who is in his cabin and he's stressed out. He's like not actually yelling, but he's like stressed out. And what about the deadlines? We have this thing to complete at this point of time. This month we have these all things on the platter, on our list, and all that. So does this boss give a vibe of positivity, optimism, or a person who comes with a smile? Everybody is like working and everybody is performing, but this guy or a lady is not at all stressed out. He is like having that utmost job satisfaction. He's a leader leading through self example, and with a smile he's performing, conducting all those meetings, but he has a time slots for his own health, managing
Mhm.
his wealth, managing his time, managing his people, and most importantly, he's also a learner. So
Very
every
good.
leader is a follower first, and the one who leads the way needs to learn the most.
I like that. The one who leads the way is the one who leads the most.
Who
To our
learns the
viewers
most?
out there
Yes,
that need to learn them, to our leader, to our viewers, and to those who will
yes,
do this in the future, view this recording, I'd like to repeat, I'd like to reiterate that those who lead the way should be the ones who will
who one
need
the learns
to
the most,
learn the most. So
because
that's
learning is the key
powerful.
to your success, and that is the answer to your cultural change or gradual shift that happens continuously. So if time is passing continuously and seamlessly, you need to keep on learning, and your learning would definitely reflect in your work, which will ultimately create an outstanding performance. And
That's
even if you don't lead every time, if you fail, you need to learn from that failure. So failure is a part of your success, not an opposite of your success.
beautiful. I like that. I like that. And we are hearing this from someone who got a double PhD, a two master's degree, and multiple certifications, adjunct professor. So this Professor Chaitanya is walking his talk. He's not just saying this straight from the book, but he embodies this quality, a learner. And thank you so much, Professor, for sharing us your, not just your insight, but your lifestyle. And I really admire, because we, even before this live stream, during our individual, how do you call that, exclusive calls, or yeah, individual calls,
Yes.
Professor is really humble, and he sees to it that you are welcome, you are heard. So you embody that quality, Professor. Thank you. You don't
Thank you.
make me feel you have a double PhD and I don't have a PhD, but
Yes.
you are a humble person, and I really admire you for that. Really, this is from the
True.
bottom of my
True.
heart. And by the way, I'd like to acknowledge Sukumar Thapa from Nepal. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sukumar, for watching, for tuning in. Um Yes, we'd love to hear from you if you have any questions. And of course, my ever supportive daughter, Niaraya, because she is also hungry for learning. And for those who will watch this in the future, I know there are people out there who really who benefited from our live stream. So a few of them messaged me privately expressing their gratitude and how the discussions have helped them and opened their eyes. So please, we continue adding value to our community, to our people, and it's all right. You can post your comments on the comment section. You don't have to be shy. But I also appreciate the private messages, the direct messages. So we'll continue what we're doing because this is part of serving our serving humanity, as what you said, Professor. So thank you so much. Now, the next question is, how can organizations balance empathy and accountability when guiding people through change? Because, it's normal, for example, there's a change of, sometimes it's not just even a change of leadership, a change of ownership of the company. And with the change of ownership, there's change of policy, which includes as well the benefits of the employees and the system, additional, the additional policies and all of these things. Now, we understand our people and they may fear what they will lose in the process. So how can you help? I mean, how can organizations create that balance? We
I would
understand you
say,
guys, we
very good
understand the
question.
employees, but then there is also
Yeah.
accountability to
It's
deliver.
a very realistic setting here. What I would put it in this is that, first and foremost, organizations, again, a quote is coming here. You may like to reiterate that maybe.
Mm,
If you want your employees to add value, first you value them. If you
mm,
want your employees to add value, first you value them. So I'm telling to the employees, you first value your employees, right?
beautiful.
There is someone called as Vineet Nair who said, like, employees first, customers second, which means that I would value my employers first and my employees will take care of the customers. So, for example, I'm a professor, I'm the dean for an organization, an academic head. I would say I would value my faculties first, and my faculties would take care of the students. So, definitely, students does come first to me, but then equally to that, it's my faculties, my employees who would be of optimum importance to me. And in this sense, organizations should first value their employees. They should feel valued through rewards and recognition, giving them an opportunity for vacations, giving them an opportunity to say, for example, you said you're not a PhD, so an employer could offer you a kind of an ongoing learning platform, or a CPD, continuous professional development. Maybe it not just be a PhD, but something which is within your area, maybe strategy or change management or executive leadership. There are a wider number of courses that Harvard offers, MIT offers, Stanford offers. So these all courses, most of them are free as well, and most of them are for the C-suite employees, the kind of CEOs and areas like that. So companies should encourage education in terms of employment, because through education your employees would be qualified, skilled, tactical, and at the same time they should play hard and work hard. So first comes is play hard. So for example, we can check for being an employee of Google, being an employee of NASA, how they are making good, how they are doing good. Take for example, Indian Army. I mean, it's like you can imagine the way of work that they do, but the way that they celebrate, they have joy, they are fighting death. It's like any army. I'm just quoting for Indian Army, but for example, I mean, the way they lead, they have their style, they have their discipline, but at the end of the day, they lead life because every millisecond for them is very important. So we need to understand that. I'm giving these examples, but the same thing any employer could do. You need not be a part of NASA to experience that. You can experience that within your own setting.
Mm,
So life starts with you. What I mean is, to value that, these all employers need to understand that. Number one. Number two, 50% of your life, say for example, like 25%, 25 years, 30 years, or in some cases 40 years, you spend it with your colleagues. So treat them as a part of your extended family. You
mm,
may see your family say 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, or maximum 8 hours. but 10 hours you are spending with your extended family. So please understand that this is a place where we are going to be, where you lead, where you have implemented and exhibited your skills, your education, you have put it to practice. So in that sense, I would take my own example. As you said, you're a double doctorate and you have all these accolades. But if I am not a man who would, any person would feel like saying an hello, or if I carry my aura in such a way that I represent these all big organizations like Harvard and Lancaster and all, but if I am not a man whom anybody could approach and speak to me, then all this is a waste.
Beautiful.
Because what carries here is my quality as a human being first, maybe as an Indian second, and maybe as a humble guy whom each and everyone is approachable to me, in that sense that I don't use the word that I'm busy. I use the word that I'm occupied.
Mm, beautiful. That's
And most
something. That's my
importantly,
takeaway.
when you stress yourself in countries like China or India or Asian areas wherein you work, there was a tendency. Now it's declining, but there was a tendency to working after office hours or conducting meetings at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. This, for me, it shows your mismanagement.
Mm,
So for organizations, I would say that they are a part of your extended family. Live with them, enjoy with them, perform with them, and be a part and parcel of that togetherness.
nice, nice. So I can see, Professor, you are really highly a people person, you know, you value people so much.
Yes, indeed.
And you are what you claim you are, you know, you are really into learning and development. And based on your answers, I could say that they come from your heart. I mean, they really come from your experience, because it's different when you say something because you've heard it, you've read it, you've,
Correct.
yes, people tell you that it is, but based on your answers and with the passion of how
Yes.
you express
Yes.
your thoughts and your insights, I could tell that you are doing this, you know, you've been doing this. So the culture starts from us, how we carve that path for the people to
Exactly.
follow. And I really appreciate, you know, you how much you emphasize humility, despite our I would say achievement. So we don't put that in our head, but being more human, because the tendency of
True.
people is when they accumulate more titles, more
Yes.
labels, and more, let's say,
Exactly.
money, they put that in their head and they feel they are better than the rest. At the end of the day, we are still human beings, and we are only stewards of what God has entrusted us. So we always have to put our, you know, keep our feet on the ground. And
True.
another takeaway, even though we're not done yet, but you know, you emphasized earlier that we are all tourists in this world. This is not our permanent
Yes.
place. So if we
Exactly.
can live life worth emulating, why not? You know, that's very beautiful, and that's so
And I would also
good
add
of
to
you,
this that
Professor.
everyone, every leader, every performer, every employee needs to understand that it's not your titles or your paycheck that makes you a hero or
Hmm.
a valuable person in the organization. It's what matters to a customer, to an employee, to an every individual is how you made other person feel. The way you treat others is what they will carry forward. So you might be just a manager in a company, but the way you deal with that, you give a comfort to the other person or a welcoming attitude, as I would say, that is what makes the difference. So it's what the way you treat others would make the difference, and the way you give. If you give a kindness, you would receive that in return for sure.
Well, that's beautiful. Yes, because that what you give is what you receive. What you put out
Yes.
will
And
always come
your
back.
aura should be welcoming in a way that it should not fear. So you may be a star or a star performer, but your stardom should not it should not decline or it should not lessen the kind of people who approach you. Rather, you should be easily accessible to all. That's
Mm,
the value of your stardom.
beautiful. So accessible. How do we balance that? You know, you should be accessible to all when others make themselves exclusive. So what's your stand on that? Be accessible to
One of
all,
the
be
key to
available.
that is your performance to leading with self example, or as I said. Second is the decision making. You should stand true to your team when they fail. So one of the attitudes any leader needs to develop, where transitioning to change and moving on to this various culture facets, I would say that you should support your team when they fail and lead the way, and when they win, give the success to them. So it's not the me culture, but I'm here standing strong, supporting the team like a China wall to support you. And when you fail, the leader takes the blame. That should be the attitude, so that no one fears. And the blame game theory should be avoided. At times, in some offices I've observed, or in some cases I've seen, that it's like, who did that? It's not important who did that. It's what is more important is how to correct that.
That's a game changer. Who
So
did that? So how to
solutions are
correct
should
it?
be superior than the problem.
What wonderful. By the way, you mentioned earlier, I want to reiterate. Whenever there are challenges and even failure, the leader should be there to support and back people up, back the
Yes,
team up.
yes,
But
yes.
unfortunately, I've even encountered where those who claim themselves as leaders and awarded leaders, when the going gets tough, they leave you
Yes,
there and you
exactly.
have to face things
We
on your
have a
own.
comparison between a
Yes, and
boss and a
then they
leader.
claim they're
So,
awarded leaders. That's just very disappointing. And this is
yes, yes,
something, easier said than done. But I hope those who will be watching
exactly.
this recording, you take this into those who claim they are leaders, when the going gets tough, please be there for
one
your
of the one of the areas that I would point out here is that, again, I'm generalizing few things, but then that may be applicable to some of the organizations or some of the leaders. That when you hire people, like hiring is one of the key which has been overlooked in majority of the employer, and in many of the cases. When you hire someone, you have to trust that person, because it's your decision. If I hire a manager, if I hire a secretary, I need to trust that person. So it's your own decision. If you register for a course, if you register for a PhD, or if you register for an MBA, it's your own decision. So you should have trust in yourself. You shouldn't do the micromanagement of what he or she is doing, what things are happening around. That's not of a job of a leader. So a
Mm,
leader, once he appoints someone, at least give him 3 months to perform, and then see the output. And then if not, then you have to guide him or her, and to train them, and to bring him in an environment that the way you do things, the way your team learns. It's like children, they see the parents doing and they learn from the parents. So if the father is smoking, or if mother is like mostly on the calls, and I mean having more love to the her mobile than the child, then the child learns it that way. So the
mm,
employees do learn from the leader, the way leader is built up, and the way he shares his expertise, the way he talks, the way he treats others. Employees learn from them.
mm. This
So
is what we
try not to
say,
be bossy, try not to
behavior.
dominate,
Yeah.
and try not to have the fear aspect. The fear factor never works on an employee.
So in other words, behaviors are acquired, not taught.
Yes. And
It's
I would
easier.
quote
Yeah.
here that an employee should love the work more than in love of his salary or her salary. So paycheck is something as a byproduct of your work.
Mm,
But the core thing is your talent that you should be valued for. It's
mm.
not the money that one should matter. Money is very much required, but that is for survival. That is not the only element that would make you happy. Currency would not make you happy. Rather, it is something as an aspect of your stature, of your caliber. One aspect. But the other aspect is your talent, that you are a human being. Ultimately, you're not going to consume money, you're going to consume food.
But he used money to buy food.
Exactly. So that is a byproduct.
Okay. Yeah, so that's great. And Professor, how can leaders, once there is change, let's say, okay, a change of management, and or we impose new practices in the company, and once that change has been implemented, how can you, or what suggestions do you have for leaders to ensure that change sticks and becomes part of the organizational DNA? Like, this is our best practice. We want to, I mean, let's say we learn from another organization, their best practice, and we want to implement that. and now it has started, but we want it to be part of our organizational DNA. What's your
First
advice?
and foremost is clear communication. Number one, clear communication, clear vision. Second is like circulation of information beyond the hierarchical barriers from top to bottom and bottom to top. The third is to live that life. So, like right from the topmost boss until the junior most employee, he or she needs to imbibe that because it's more like a practice. So it should not be put as a rule, but it should be put as by knowing the purpose. So if you know,
Mm,
like for example, I'll give you a very simple example. In India, for two-wheelers, there is a rule for helmets, and
mm,
some cases it's practiced. Some people they don't practice, so they are fined at times. So one should understand the purpose of wearing a helmet while you drive a two-wheeler. If that purpose is clear, it's for your own safety, then government should not be needing to tell that every now and then and to fine people with that. One Once the individual understands the purpose, he or she would do that. So for example, during the corona time, to wear the mask, Prime Minister of India was announcing, please wear the mask, please wear. It's not required. It's for your own safety. So you imbibe and underline the purpose. So when the purpose is clear with the new rule or the new shift that has happened and the change is prevailing within the organization, when that is clear, one part is the training thing and one part is executing that. So you need to have something called as the communities of practice, like a performer within the team who is like the person who is living that, who is driving that change, and that is something which will spread to his team. So we are some total of the small teams. A big organization, say having 50,000 employees, will have small teams of 15, 20, or 200 or something like that. And then each team, when they operate well, all the organizations, all the employees within the organizations will lead the way. So it's a gradual shift. At the same time, the management should not consider that now that change has happened, so from the very next week, from the very second day, this would reflect. No, they should have patience, they should lead with tolerance, and they should understand that something you have started today will take its own time. Even when you eat the food, it takes time to digest. So allow that time.
I like
Immediately
that.
don't start with hire and fire policy. That won't work. And at the
So,
same time, when you have a motive for that, when you have a purpose for that, which is clear in the employee, each one of us learn differently. Different
mm,
people learn differently. So I may understand something within 1 hour. Some people will take 2 days. Some people will understand within 5 minutes. So
mm.
give that time barrier because each one of us is different.
That's beautiful. So let me recap because that's something I also want to, put in my system. When there is a change and we want it to be permanent, instead of nagging it over and over again, we have
That's the
to
point. Correct.
inculcate the purpose. We communicate the purpose.
Yes.
The purpose has to
Yes.
be understood to a deep
Yes.
level. And once that
Yes.
purpose is understood and received correctly, properly, then there is the implementation. Okay, we
Yes.
implement and then we
And each one
continue.
of us has a selfish motive, what's in for me. So if you tell what's in for you, it's for your own safety, it's for your own good, it's for your own benefit, then naturally a person will do that. So
Mm,
make it as a part of his habit. And that's what the organizational culture would become.
wonderful. And then a little bit, and we give time, and give allowance, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I would say the
Yes.
learning continuum, there the gap there differs from person to person and team by team, but that is very powerful. And I like, as always, professor, when it comes to leadership and change and even progress and innovation, it all starts from us. So there's really not everyone is called to how do you call that, to lead big organizations, but all of us are leaders in our own right. We start leadership
Exactly.
within ourselves, because sometimes, or more often than not, people will say, I'm not a leader because I'm not the CEO. But you are a leader to yourself, and only when you can
Exactly.
lead yourself that you
And
can lead
underline the
others.
fact of an accountability, no matter whatever desk you manage, but you should be accountable to that. So imbibe that. That is something called as organizational citizenship behavior, that this is my country, this is my company, this is where I belong to. So that sense
Mm,
of belonging should be louder.
wonderful. Professor, that's my key takeaway. OCB. For those who are watching us, we have a new term, and
Yeah,
it's
and the
that we
COPs,
can,
communities of
yes,
practice,
yeah, organizational citizenship
citizenship behavior.
behavior. And what's the other one, Professor? That you
COP, the
COP,
communities of practice, COP theory. Yeah,
communities of practice.
practice. Yeah.
Communities of practice, the COP. So that's very important. And for today's session, Professor, thank you so much. And it's very deep. You've shared something, and personally, I'd like to even watch the recording, because as we grow our community and grow the organization, these we don't forget that we are also human beings, and we don't allow the day-to-day deliverables or deadlines to get in our way, because after all, we are a holistic human being, and the change starts from us, and we continue to evolve to become a better person. Now, for those who are watching us, please, I'd like you to drop your comments. What's one change your organization is currently navigating now? If any of you will watch this in the future, please drop in the comments, and we'd love to answer that. If not now, maybe in the future. And if you have experienced a change that completely shifted your workplace culture, it was that for better or for worse, we'd love to hear your story. Let us know, and we can post it on our group, so we can learn from each other. This is not one way. We'd love to hear as well from you guys, those who are watching. And it's okay,
So
to post your comments. That is so fine. Um, because we'd love to hear, and we'd love it. It will be our joy when we know we are adding value to our community and to our people. Professor, thank you so much. Do you have any last advice or suggestions before we end this afternoon session or this episode?
I would just conclude that by saying, for the topic leading through change, that change should be silent. It is not, I would say, to conclude that whenever any organization is undergoing a change, it's like the heartbeat. So it's continuously going on, but you shouldn't feel that change. That would be the key to that success. If you say that from today I'm going to change, which means you are actually signaling your brain to do something new, so there is a resistance, that the readiness is not there. But from today I'm going to learn something new or do something better, or a simple philosophy that I am going to do something better today more than yesterday, that itself is a change.
Beautiful. That is so powerful, Professor Chaitanya. And indeed, as we close today's conversation, we're reminded that true leadership during change isn't about having all the answers, but it's about cultivating trust, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. Sometimes you just have to embrace it and just go with the flow. And building adaptive cultures is not a one-time event, just like what Professor said. It is a journey. It's a leadership mindset, one that
Yes,
values learning. Just what Professor said earlier, I want to learn something new. And it's
yes,
about listening deeply and aligning with people with purpose, even in the
yes.
face of disruption. Once again, thank you, Professor, and thank you to our viewers for joining us for episode 9 of the Growthinity Exchange livestream interview series, where purpose meets perspective. If you found value in today's session, don't forget to like, share, and tag someone who's navigating change in their own leadership journey. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, lead with clarity, adapt with courage, and build cultures that rise through every transition. Stay resilient, stay rooted, stay Growthinity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.